So I recently bought Procreate as a birthday present to myself, even though I have ibisPaint Premium and don't plan on stopping my subscription. Why did I do this? I wanted to compare them and see what would be better for an art portfolio. The TLDR of it is that I prefer ibisPaint for concept art or just sketches, but Procreate for full, major pieces and clean concept art for pieces needing to be used among many people or for major projects. Today I'm talking about both programs and reviewing them as someone who is working on a digital art portfolio for college. Should you put more mediums in an art portfolio? Probably, but I want to talk about Procreate and ibisPaint. To be clear, however, even though I do have Premium, I will speak about ibisPaint X, the non-membership version of ibisPaint, then the subscription version. There's a lot of versions. Keep in mind, all of this is my opinion, and I haven't heard anyone else's thoughts on either of the programs, so I will likely be biased after using ibisPaint X since middle school and ibisPaint throughout high school. I will be drawing half the thumbnail in ibisPaint, then the other half in Procreate, both at 1920 x 1080 pixels. I'll go into this as deep as I can without making the video too long. With all that said, let's start with ibisPaint. ibisPaint X is the free version of ibisPaint. ibisPaint X has ads all over, which I'll use my phone to show since I still have it on there. I used to draw my finger, because until my Sweet 16, all I had was my phone to draw on digitally. Every time you exit a drawing, you get thrust into an advertisement that is either about buying Premium or some app/product. To get rid of ads, you can pay a one-time fee of $14.99 USD, which is how much ibisPaint costs, so if you want, you can just buy ibisPaint rather than mess with ibisPaint X. Because as far as I know, you cannot transfer artwork among the apps, but you can still stick with ibisPaint X if wanted. For the premium features such as creating folders, rearranging artworks, access to all brushes, increased cloud storage, special filters, and so much more, can be bought for either $2.99 USD per month or $27.99 USD per year. I have the yearly subscription, so my first time buying the app and then paying for the premium cost me $42.98 USD, not including tax. Was the purchase worth it? I'd say so. At the time, I had no idea about Procreate and was already used to the ibisPaint layout, so all the features just excited me. Being able to create folders, having all these brushes without having to watch ads, being able to make animations, even with how bad it works, and having more storage attracted me immediately. One thing I really love about ibisPaint is its user interface, which to me communicates everything really well. The sidebar tools have icons that all make sense for what they are, with their names right under the icons. The only thing on the sidebar that may be confusing is the wand, but you can just try it out and learn what it is. Now, ibisPaint is definitely more meant for comic making, but that isn't a bad thing. A drawing app is a drawing app no matter what it caters to. There's a reference window that allows as many references as you want, rulers, selection tools, grid settings, manga manuscript settings, patterns/textures free to use, and tracing sketches free to use. So many tools just here that are available both in premium and non-premium versions. Even with all these tools, the user interface isn't cluttered and is rather simplistic. The color wheel is a square in the middle with a ring around it. Underneath, it also has the hex code, sliders, and RGB sliders, as well as the opacity on the bottom. On the side, you can save colors by dragging over the color on the very top down to where you want it. There is a limited number of spaces, and I won't lie, I hardly ever use this, but it is nice that it's there. Below, the color saves is your most recent color and goes back quite a bit. Something that I love but also annoys me is the transform tool. Select an area and move it as much as you want, but if you dare rotate or change the size, the quality instantly goes downhill. While that does annoy me, ultimately I only resize stuff in the sketching phase anyways. What ibisPaint does better than Procreate is the selection tool and the fill bucket tool. On ibisPaint, you can select many things at once and even has a selection layer where you can use brushes to draw out what you want selected. The fill bucket tool can either work on the current layer, a specific selected layer, and the whole canvas. Overall, they're incredibly useful tools that I've been using for a long time. When you're done with a drawing, you can export the image and even export the time-lapse. This is where I start having major problems. Whenever exporting a drawing, I can't help but feel as if the quality is lowered, unless you work on a big canvas, which ibisPaint actively is against and warns about. Also, don't even get me started on the time-lapse quality. If you download the video with the movements of you turning the canvas and zooming in, the with/without window options, then everything looks blurry as it moves around fast, and if you're downloading it at the lower lengths, then you better get ready to have a low quality time-lapse. Even when you downloaded it without the moving, it still feels lower quality. Overall, ibisPaint is a great starter app that, if you get into it, has many great features to use and enjoy. Now on to Procreate. Procreate costs $12.99 USD as a one-time payment. There is no premium membership, so this is all you need to have access to all the features. I won't lie, when first opening the app, I was very confused. I saw no settings, and while I liked how simple everything looked, it seemed too barren. The canvas settings do have presets, but I really wish there were more types, and when I tell you my jaw dropped seeing the default dimensions so high, you can tell I'm not used to such quality. Not many people are necessarily good at figuring out height and weight wanted for a drawing, those people being me. So I was just a bit annoyed by so few presets. While choosing the dimensions, however, there are other options when it comes to your drawing. I felt so much joy seeing the time-lapse settings. As someone who only wants to show the best, it had always frustrated me how much ibisPaint lowered the quality when exporting time-lapses. Even when just exporting the drawings, they don't lose their quality. Just this made it so I've decided to create all thumbnails not already made in Procreate from now on, as well as drawings I want in videos. The brushes on Procreate are absolutely to die for. ibisPaint has good brushes, but most of the brushes I actually use are from the online tab where people share brushes they made themselves. I don't know how to put it other than, yummy brush. Something about Procreate that had always fascinated me was the stabilizer. ibisPaint has a stabilizer, but it isn't nearly as useful as Procreate's. I can't even tell if ibisPaint's stabilizer does anything. I can't tell if it's just me, but when I'm using my Apple Pencil, it feels as if it's a little off. I'll provide a visual, and imagine the red is where my screen responds to my pencil. The first image is how it feels on ibisPaint, and the second is how it feels on Procreate. I draw with my Apple Pencil at an angle, so it just feels awkward. Not only that, where's the setting to make it so only my Apple Pencil can draw? Every now and then when I try to move this screen, I accidentally draw and don't realize I'm so far I can't undo without getting rid of a lot. Good news! Procreate has a reference pop-up. Bad news, you can only use one reference. What? I need multiple references! Also, what's up with the fill bucket tool? Why does it suck and only work on your current layer? And the damn selection tool, like what the Sorry, my bad. There are negatives, but even so, these negatives just do not outweigh the positives. You can drag an image into the color palettes to sample the colors. You can make your own brush folder if you have set brushes you will use constantly. The 3D models could be useful for those who use models. I don't. And the gesture controls being customizable is amazing. Even with my major bias, I recognize that Procreate is an amazing app that costs very little compared to what I pay for ibisPaint Premium. Even with the downsides, I'm confident changes will be made to make things even better. With only having one reference at a time, I can't say that I'll use it to make concept art, but for full pieces, I usually only use one image of whatever character I'm drawing, so it's fine really. Should people argue about which one is better? No, because both are good in their own ways, and it mainly depends on people's preferences. But I wouldn't mind Toxic Yuri or Yaoi of the two apps, I'm just saying. This has been Cody, and I'm looking forward to talking more about art and video games. See you later.